Becoming a dad doesn't come with an instruction manual, just 1,000 questions that you're suddenly expected to know all the answers to. Am I ready for this? That feeling of this pregnancy feeling real, this journey feeling real, is often later than we think, if we're honest. What actually changes after the baby arrives? One of the massive things that dads worry about is around bonding. How do I bond with my baby as a dad? How am I actually supposed to feel? What am I meant to be doing? Every good dad has this one thought as well, that everyone else seems better at this than me. Before we get into this week's episode, there's something I've been waiting to tell you. I'm really excited to share that I am the resident midwife for the baby show in 2026. The next show is Friday the 6th of March to Sunday the 8th of March at XL in London. I will be on the live talk stage sponsored by Tommy Tippy on Sunday the 8th at 12 o'clock, sharing tools and techniques to support you during labour and birth. The baby show is the UK's largest and best loved pregnancy, baby and parenting event, where visitors can buy, compare, try and save from over 350 brands, as well as gaining invaluable expert advice all under one roof. And they know a thing or two about babies. Tickets can be bought online at thebabyshow.co.uk/XL, thebabyshow.co.uk/XL. And if you pop the code PTPIPPOD before Thursday the 5th of March, you'll get your ticket for only £16 per person, saving £12 off the on-the-door price. So please get yourself a ticket and come and see me. I'd love to meet you all and say hi. For now, back to the episode. This episode is for the men standing on the edge of fatherhood, excited, terrified, curious, maybe Googling things at 2 a.m. that they'd never admit out loud. On this episode, we're going to tackle the real questions that new and expectant dads ask, but rarely get the straight answers to, from pregnancy and birth to relationships, mental health, and figuring out the kind of father that you might want to be. No judgment, no fluff, just honest conversations for dads who want to show up and get it right, even if you're not quite sure what right looks like just yet. So welcome to my episode about questions that every dad has and the conversation that's actually going to answer them. I'm going to talk about FAQs, frequently asked questions that every new or expectant dad has, in my experience, but rarely really asks or gets the opportunity to ask in any depth. And this is really relevant whether you're an expectant dad or a brand new dad, or you've just found out that you're going to become a dad, because it's so normal to feel a whole range of emotions, excited and also slightly terrified. And so for anyone who's thinking kind of, am I supposed to feel more right now? Am I supposed to feel this way right now? What am I actually supposed to do? And also, why does no one talk about what dads go through on this journey? So today we're going to cover some of the most common questions that new and expectant dads have, but with really honest answers, without any judgment, without any kind of macho nonsense, and without pretending that this journey is all sunshine and lullabies, because it's not. It's wonderful, but it's got as many highs as lows, as challenges and bumps in the road as well, and that's all part of it. So let's get into it, and I'm going to break these into pregnancy, labour, and then like new baby stages. So to start with, before baby arrives, that pregnancy stage, when does it feel real for dads? And I think, in short, that feeling of this pregnancy feeling real, this journey feeling real, is often later than we think, if we're honest. Now, for many dads, pregnancy can feel kind of abstract, especially to start with. There's not necessarily a physical reminder happening inside your body. And although logically you know it's real, you may not necessarily feel it yet. Now, for some dads, it will click perhaps at the first ultrasound scan, maybe when they find out the gender of your baby, maybe when you feel the first kick, or sometimes not until your baby's actually placed in your arms, and that is okay. That delay doesn't mean that you're cold or you're broken or you're detached. It just means that you're human. And when you can't feel or see your life change just yet, it can feel kind of abstract. And there's not a wrong or a right way to feel at this stage. I think we talk a lot about women not having to feel a certain way about a pregnancy experience, but we often don't validate that same emotion for dads, and it is exactly the same. And it can naturally find that things click that little bit later, and that's okay. Another question I get asked a lot by dads is, and I love this question, what can I actually do in pregnancy? What can I actually do? Feels like all the stuff's happening to the woman. Perhaps all the appointments feel really directed to the woman, and you're kind of there like, well, what's my role? Where do I fit in this jigsaw piece? But you can, as a dad, do a lot more in pregnancy than you think. And dads really matter a lot before birth. Now, obvious things like going to appointments whenever you can, but also learning about birth and recovery, learning about the changes that are happening in her body. It gives you that depth of understanding, but also means that you are equipped for the journey ahead. We often forget that things like birth trauma impact dads just as much as mums, if not more sometimes. So it's protective of everybody when you are educated about birth and you have expectations for what the postpartum might look like, what that recovery journey might look like. So you're not kind of taken off guard when you land in that period of your life. And then either handling or, depending on your relationship dynamic, kind of being involved or interested in some of those logistics. So the things like the baby gear, you know, the paternity or maternity leave, the insurances, some of those kind of more tick box practical jobs, but actually taking some of that mental load, or at least showing interest in it, feeling like a partnership is really important. And then being an emotional steady ground. Now that is easier said than done, I appreciate, because there's not much that is emotionally steady about a pregnant woman when hormones are literally changing day on day, week on week, hour on hour. But trying to be that kind of grounded person in that dynamic so that you're not both fluctuating wherever possible, finding that yin and yang, that balance. Pregnancy is for sure physically uncomfortable at times and emotionally really intense for everybody. So being that present and that dependable character is enormous. Even if you don't feel like you're physically doing loads of things, that presence, that being there, honestly makes such a profound difference. One of the questions that I hear all the time is, how do I support my partner? And often there is this fear of kind of messing it up or getting it wrong almost. And this one is really, really key to unpick, because most of the time, honestly, the best support is listening, hearing, not fixing. Now, with the best heart and meaning in the world, often dads, partners, husbands really want to fix things. You might think like, in your dynamic, you might be the fixer or the mender. But actually, often in pregnancy, that isn't what the kind of cry out for help is about. So instead of, if something is offloaded to you, instead of, well, here's what you should do, or why don't you do this? Instead, flip it. What do you need right now? Sometimes the answer might be help. There might be something practical. Sometimes it might be space. Sometimes it might be just you listening. Was that thing that they needed? Sometimes it's snacks. Don't ever underestimate the power of snacks, especially when you're growing a human being. But really, really recognizing that on this journey, there's not always a thing to be fixed, but just hearing those thoughts, feelings, worries, anxieties is such a powerful form of support. Even if you don't feel like you're actively doing something, it really matters. Now we're going to fast forward. Labour and birth, the big event. And one of the first questions that often comes to mind is, what is my role as the birth partner, as the dad during labour? Now, if we could summarise it into one thing, I would say you are the calm anchor. There is lots of unknowns, whether that's the room, whether that's the people, whether that's the experience, the sensations, timings, so many unknowns. You are the known thing. You are the thing that she knows, the anchor that she can come back to, the person that will make her feel calm even amongst so much uncertainty. So you are this calm anchoring role. Your job, thank goodness, in this year is not to be a lemon in the corner or just kind of be there at the end and watch the baby come out. You have such an important role. You're the advocate. You can keep track of the basic things. You can offer reassurance, physical support. Again, that being there is so powerful. Staying flexible. So we don't want to think, well, this is our birth plan, so my job is to facilitate this birth plan. We know plans often change. So being flexible, but having had those in-depth prior discussions together so you know what that flexibility is going to look and feel like. You do not need to be perfect. I have seen so many birth partners, so many dads. There is no such thing as perfect. You just need to be present. By being present, by her just knowing you are there, you are being that calm anchor, is so, so powerful. And just like mum, you need to practice. Because I promise you, nothing feels as awkward as telling someone to breathe, for example, when you've not talked through it before, when you've not actually done it before. Also, nothing as a birth partner feels as odd as practicing breathing without an actual stimulus to breathe through to kind of figure out whether it benefits you guys or not. So this is where I really recommend, as dads and birth partners, you get a step ahead, because your role in labour is big and it can make a really big difference. So what we want to do, what we want to be proactive in, is finding out what techniques will work for you and your partner. So trial them out, but we want to trial them out with an uncomfortable stimulus. This might sound controversial. We want to do it safely. So I recommend using ice cubes. So ask your partner to hold ice firmly in her hands against her skin. We're trying to create a discomfort. I'm not suggesting that holding ice is equal to the pain of a contraction by any stretch of the imagination. But what we are trying to do is just give some kind of discomfort sensation. We're going to imagine when we've got that discomfort that is the contraction. We know an average contraction lasts about 60 seconds. So ice in hands, we set a 60-second timer, length of an average contraction. And we want to see how she tolerates that sensation of holding the ice. Now you can trial this without any of your support. Trial it with you providing support, and then look at the different types of support. So helping her to breathe, maybe counting, maybe providing massage as examples. So trialing those things that you thought might help in labour and seeing if they actually help or not. Because breathing doesn't help universally for everybody. Massage doesn't help universally for everybody. But having that real-time practice is so much more effective than kind of going into it blind and just hoping in the moment that something might work or might help. You can try holding the ice together so you don't feel like you're just inflicting pain on your other half. You can try doing it together and you can see how those coping mechanisms might help you as well. So if something feels stressful or unsettling to you during birth, you've got a way of grounding yourself as well and remaining in that space of being that calm anchor. So in terms of breathing, we want to think about that lovely calm breath. Now, there is 1,001 ways to do a calm breath. The thing to remember is we want it to be comfortably long and slow. So nice, long, slow inhale breath through your mouth or your nose. Doesn't really matter, in all honesty. We can overcomplicate this enormously. A nice, comfortably long inhale breath. The key is that your exhale breath is slightly longer. Just by a couple of seconds is perfect. What that does is it tells your brain you're calm, you're safe. That is a really important physiological response to have during birth. We want everything to feel calm, safe, and relaxed. So the whole point of that breath is nice, comfortable inhale and a slightly longer exhale. So that's the breath that you can practice with the ice. The other thing that can work really effectively, it's more active, and it might be during birth, you switch between the two. That can work really well too. So counting. Now, counting is a lovely technique. You want to have eye contact. You want to be close and connected. And what we need to understand for counting to work is that a contraction lasts on average 60 seconds. But it's like a bell curve. So it rises in intensity, it peaks, and then it filters off. So we have about 20 seconds of rising, 20 seconds of peak, 20 seconds of it filtering off. So when the contraction starts, you begin your count. Your partner then knows in her brain, if you've practiced this and communicated it, that she's kind of doing like mini mind games, which is what a lot of coping in labour is about, to be honest. So 20 seconds of, okay, the contraction's building, 20 seconds of, let's go, this is the peak intensity, and then 20 seconds of, okay, things are easing off, we're going back to a baseline, I can do this. Real-time practice is so beneficial and so important and is absolutely part of your role, and it's going to make you enjoy it more as well, because otherwise contractions start, you're kind of thinking, oh, let's try this thing or let's try that thing, but you're not really sure what might work, what might be beneficial, how to do it. If you've had all of that prior communication, it is so beneficial to everybody. Don't be afraid to write things down either. There's no prize for remembering all the things that you were going to do or the things that were helpful. Just write it down. If it's 2 a.m, being able to just quickly have a look at your phone and think, right, these are the things I was going to do. Perfect. No one's going to judge you for that. That doesn't matter. You know, it's much more important you have that safety net and you feel calm and regulated in yourself. Otherwise, it's impossible to be that calm anchor to her. My brand new book, Midwife Pip's Guide to a Positive Birth, is now available. So much more than a book, this is a guide that allows me to hold your hand through your birth preparation journey. With over a decade of experience and knowledge packed in to ensure you really are empowered in the way you deserve to achieve a positive birth, regardless of the twists and turns that crop up. Make sure that you get your hands on Midwife Pip's Guide to a Positive Birth book now and are empowered to have the birth experience that you deserve. Let's move on to the baby's here bit. So the newborn stage. We've done pregnancy, we've done labour, the baby has landed in your world. One of the massive things that dads worry about is around bonding. How do I bond with my baby as a dad? The key thing to remember is that bonding happens through doing. It is often not an instant magic, and that goes for mums and dads. Really nice bonding moments or opportunities can come up with things like skin to skin. Skin to skin for dads is amazing. It's not just a mum thing. It's not just a breastfeeding thing. You can absolutely have skin to skin with your baby as much, as often, as frequent as you like. Singing, reading, talking to them. Remember, if you have been talking to Bump, they will hear your voice. Your voice can be a beautiful comfort when they're born. Bath time, you can even co-bath with your baby, taking them for walks. You can have them in a baby carrier or in the pram, doing a little bedtime routine together, baby massage. There are so many things. And it's okay if you don't feel that rush of oxytocin or those fireworks immediately. It's so normal. No one talks about it because there's so much stigma and judgment that we should feel it. but it is so normal. And love often builds quietly, and sometimes you need to take action to kind of nurture it as well. It might not just happen automatically. A big myth we have to bust around bonding is that you need to feed your baby to help you bond with them. You do not, as a dad, need to feed your baby to be able to bond. Adding a bottle in, whether it's breast or formula milk, can work so well for lots of families for so many different reasons, but it is not the secret passage to bonding. And what, to be honest, in today's society, we often overlook is the fact that for you to give a bottle when mum's breastfeeding often requires her to put in more work, because it adds in the load of cleaning and sterilising bottles, maybe pump parts. She has to take the time to express for you to then put into the bottle to then feed the baby. And I know sometimes we think if we just add in a bottle, it will lessen the pressure on mum or support you to bond. But honestly, that is a myth. If a baby is breastfeeding, then yes, you cannot breastfeed them. But that is only one small part of their care needs. You can bath them. You can have skin to skin with them. You can go for walks. You can wear them in a baby carrier. You can read, sing, play, massage, do so many things. The feeding really is far from the kind of be all and end all. So it is not, breastfeeding just is not a barrier to dad's bonding. What's the hardest part for most dads? Often it's feelings. It's often feelings that can be hard to vocalize, hard to admit, hard to say out loud and share. Often it's feelings of helplessness, feelings of exhaustion, feelings of being unsure if you're doing it right, feelings of trying to juggle that shift in perhaps returning to work, missing those milestones, not being there to support your partner, but also having to go to work, having to provide that real shift in dynamic and that pressure and kind of being stretched in different directions. And every good dad has this one thought as well, that everyone else seems better at this than me. And they're not. They're just quieter about it. We are so awful in today's society about talking about the things that are really hard. There's this idea that when a baby comes into our life, everything should just be like rose tinted and beautiful and easy and simple and straightforward. And it just is not the reality, I promise you. There's always so many nuances and complexities, and dad's struggling in silence, and dads deserve better than that. We have to talk about it. We have to try and shift things, because we also know that dads can get postpartum depression. They can get anxiety. They absolutely can. And some of those signs or symptoms are things like irritability and anger. Sometimes that emotional numbness, a really prolonged, despite trying, ability to bond, constant worry, feelings of real disconnect. And none of that means that you don't love your child. It means that you're overwhelmed, and it means that you need support. And it's so important that we avoid feeling like there's judgment or stigma on those things because you're a dad, because they are still completely valid. We've got better. We're not fantastic, but we've got better about talking about things like postnatal depression when we associate it with women. But it happens to dads too. And we need to talk about it so that we don't have dads suffering in silence just because they feel like I'm a man or I'm a dad, so it shouldn't impact me. Another one that comes up, another question from dads often is it okay to miss my old life? Absolutely. You can love your child and miss your freedom. You can feel both grateful and completely exhausted. Those two things can be true all at one time, and it's so important that we talk about it. Because honestly, silencing it doesn't make you stronger. It just makes things heavier. They're like building blocks over time until we just combust. Relationships. This has come up so much recently. How will this change my relationship? so much. It changes your relationship enormously. I don't believe that anybody that has had a child together and tells me there hasn't been pressure or change in dynamic or hard times in their relationship after having a baby, I don't think they're being honest. You are no longer just partners. Your teammates under a huge and important and unrelenting pressure. Communication, so important. Patience, small acts of appreciation matter here more than ever. Honestly, anyone who says they didn't have crosswords or tense moments is probably not being honest. And my biggest tip is that at some point every day, just check in with each other intentionally without a defensive nature and ask openly how each other are, what each other need, what's gone well, what could have gone better. But it has to be two-way, and it only works if neither party jumps on the defensive, which can be really easy to do. So you almost have to set ground rules before we have these communication points. We want to be respectful because everyone's feeling vulnerable and tired, but also we have to be able to be honest. So important to get that balance. The identity shift of becoming a parent can feel really jarring, but remember, you're still you now that you're a dad. You've expanded. You don't disappear. You're just evolving. It's a changing time. You're finding this new experience, this new role, finding that balance, finding how that dynamic now works as a family. And that will always have some bumps, and that's normal. It's how we show up in those moments. It's how we navigate those, how we communicate through them that makes a big difference. Often leaving them unaddressed becomes toxic. It causes resentment. We want to have that communication, have that freedom to speak up. The big truth, you will mess things up sometimes. You will absolutely mess things up sometimes as a dad. Every good parent does. It's okay. What matters is that we show up, that we care, that we learn as we go. And if you have asked any of these questions to yourself already, then you are already doing better than you think, just by being curious, just by asking these questions, just by thinking, what should I do? What can I do? What can I do better? How can we navigate this better? It's an enormous time. And for dads, in so many ways, I think it's even harder for you guys because there isn't that open forum communication for the vast majority in ways that there often are more access to for women. You know, some of those conversations happen more behind closed doors, and you don't have that relatability always with other dads, with other people navigating that journey to hear, oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, that happened to us, in the way that women will often communicate in that way. There are a million and one barriers. You know, we could talk about the issues with paternity leave, the, you know, roles and dynamics in families, and, you know, how tricky it makes it for dads to be present in the way they might want it to be. There is so much in society that makes it harder. So I really wanted us to kind of normalize some of those things and unpick some of those things. And I hope that that has been helpful. If you have listened to this birth story, enjoyed it, and feel that you are ready to really embrace and dedicate yourself to having the most informed, supported, and empowered journey, and want to see if we may be able to support you in YPJ, your pregnancy and postnatal journey, please drop me a Instagram DM at midwife_pip, or get in touch on my email, pip@midwifepip.com, and let's chat through things and see if we might be a good match for each other. I hope you've enjoyed listening, and wishing you all the best on your journey through pregnancy, birth, and beyond.